45 billionaires call London home. The city mints new centimillionaires faster than Manchester produces graduates, while nearly 216,000 residents hold liquid wealth exceeding 7 figures. Stroll through Mayfair, and you'd think Britain had conquered economic gravity itself. Then take the train north. Life expectancy in Blackpool's poorest wards now trails Rwanda. Entire communities that once powered the Industrial Revolution have become archaeological exhibits of prosperity. Places where the future arrived, stayed briefly, then retreated south. Strip London and the southeast from Britain's GDP calculations, and the nation's per capita output craters by 14% overnight. The United Kingdom has become two nations stitched together by geography alone. One wearing Savile Row suits, the other patching clothes that wore out years ago. This is the autopsy of how that happened. Margaret Thatcher inherited a patient in critical condition when she entered Downing Street in 1979. The OPEC oil shocks had sent prices spiraling. £100 in 1970 commanded $300 by decade's end. Wages chased prices, prices chased wages, and the whole economy spun toward collapse. Her prescription was brutal chemotherapy. Interest rates rocketed to 17%, unprecedented in British history. The money supply was strangled until sterling M3 growth fell from 12% annually to just 6% by 1984. Public borrowing targets demanded cuts from nearly 5% of GDP to under 2%, achieved partially through tax increases imposed during a recession. 364 economists signed a letter to the Times declaring the strategy had no basis in economic theory. The medicine worked on paper. Inflation dropped from 13% to 5% within 4 years. But medicine this strong leaves scars. A strengthening pound made British exports uncompetitive abroad, while crushing borrowing costs crippled businesses at home. Manufacturing towns across the north, Scotland, and Wales watched their economic foundations crumble as factories went dark, one light at a time. By the mid-1980s, unemployment in Northern England, Scotland, and Wales had pushed past 15%. London and the southeast stayed under 10%. The same policies, applied uniformly, produced wildly different outcomes depending on what your local economy actually made. While industrial Britain bled out, London was being fitted with rocket boosters. The Big Bang deregulation of 1986 transformed the city into a financial supernova. Fixed commissions abolished, foreign ownership welcomed, electronic trading unleashed. International banks poured £450 million into London's financial district within months, minting 1,500 new millionaires and establishing the city as global finance's undisputed heavyweight. By the time Thatcher left office in 1990, Britain's headline numbers looked triumphant. GDP had jumped from £1 trillion to £1.4 trillion. Per capita income rose 30%. But inequality rose 40% during the same window, the Gini coefficient leaping from 25 to 35. Britain grew richer while growing more divided, and the division mapped almost perfectly onto geography. Manufacturing, which had comprised nearly 30% of GDP in 1979, collapsed to 16% by 1990. Employment in the sector hemorrhaged 40% of its workforce by 1993. The services sector that replaced it created different mathematics entirely. Consider what happens when a factory opens. 100 direct jobs might support 900 more throughout the supply chain. Steel workers, electricians, truckers, the cafe owner who feeds them lunch. When a bank opens, 100 jobs might support 200 others. Respectable, but not the same web of interdependence. When Britain's factories closed, entire ecosystems of employment died with them. The jobs that remained paid differently too. Manufacturing had offered union contracts, retirement plans, paid holidays. The alternatives rarely did. Economic theory predicted a great migration. As prosperity concentrated in London, workers from struggling regions should have flooded south seeking opportunity. Every textbook said so. The textbooks were wrong. London maintains negative internal migration. More Britons leave the capital than arrive. Median household incomes in London run 14% above the national average, which sounds like a compelling reason to relocate until you factor in housing costs. Adjust for the price of keeping a roof overhead, and London's income advantage shrinks to 1%. Housing in London costs nearly double the national average, and when you measure what that money actually buys, square footage, proximity to transit, basic livability, the premium grows even steeper. The arithmetic works only for top quartile earners. Everyone else would be running on a treadmill moving backward, paying London prices for salaries that don't stretch any further than northern wages do up north. Housing became the mechanism that locked inequality into place. Thatcher's right-to-buy scheme promised homeownership democracy. Council tenants could purchase their social housing at discounts reaching 70%, often with government-backed mortgages requiring zero down payment. Buy today, sell at market rates tomorrow. Pocket the difference tax-free. An entire generation of working-class families became paper millionaires. Their children are paying the bill. London possessed 715,000 social housing units in 1980, comprising 30% of the city's stock. Today, 390,000 remain, barely 10% of available housing. At least 40% of former council properties nationwide now rent at full market rates, their affordable housing mission permanently extinguished. The scheme was designed to benefit one generation, and it did, spectacularly. But no mechanism existed to replenish what was sold. The ladder was pulled up behind those who climbed it. Foreign money poured gasoline on the fire. 27% of London's residential property sales in early 2024 went to international buyers. In New York, that figure is 0.3%, a 90-fold difference. Over 20% of new London rental properties have at least one foreign shareholder, double the figure from 2016. Britain's non-domicile tax status, only recently abolished, created an open invitation for global wealth to park itself in London real estate while paying minimal taxes. These buyers weren't opening businesses or hiring locals. They were storing value in bricks, treating homes as safety deposit boxes rather than places to live. The result speaks in brutal statistics. 2% of Londoners are homeless, versus 0.8% in New York, 0.3% in Paris, 0.2% in Amsterdam. Rough sleepers exceeded 13,000 in 2024, up 63% from a decade earlier. London has become a city that produces more homeless citizens per capita than any comparable Western metropolis. Government spending patterns reinforce the divide rather than healing it. London receives nearly £1,200 per capita in transport investment. The Northeast gets £430. The East Midlands scrapes by on £350. Had Northern England received London-level funding over the past decades, the region would have seen an additional £140 billion in infrastructure, enough to build 7 Elizabeth lines. Instead, that money flowed to a city already drowning in connectivity, while places like Sheffield and Leeds struggled with Victorian-era rail links. Britain's road investment runs at 0.3% of GDP, trailing Italy, Germany, the United States, and France, some by double. This chronic underinvestment makes cities outside London functionally smaller than their populations suggest. Poor rail and road connections shrink the effective labor market, meaning fewer people can commute, fewer employers can recruit, and less growth becomes possible. The UK stands alone in Western Europe as the only place where city size doesn't strongly correlate with productivity. Infrastructure starvation is the culprit. R&D spending follows the same distorted pattern. The government allocated £60 per person for research in London versus £21 in the north and £14 in the Midlands. Germany directs more public R&D support to its poorer regions. Britain does the opposite. The places requiring the most support receive the least, while London hoovers up resources that compound its existing advantages. Innovation begets innovation, and the regions left behind fall further behind with each passing year. Not a single region north of London exceeds the UK's average GDP per capita. That sentence deserves repetition because it encapsulates the structural failure. Every area outside London and the southeast underperforms the national mean. The average is being dragged up almost entirely by a single metropolitan area containing roughly 15% of the population. Tony Blair promised to shake the kaleidoscope and reorder the pieces before they settled. 2 decades later, Britain has indeed been reordered, entirely around London. What happened to Britain wasn't an accident or an act of God. Policy choices created London's escape velocity, while simultaneously cutting the engines of everywhere else. Inflation-fighting measures that gutted manufacturing, financial deregulation that supercharged one industry in one city, housing policies that privatized today's gains and socialized tomorrow's costs, infrastructure spending that fed the already fat. These weren't market forces operating naturally. They were decisions. The United Kingdom won't heal by accident either. Until investment, opportunity, and attention spread beyond the M25, Britain will remain a divided kingdom in more than name. A nation where the distance between prosperity and poverty can be measured in train stops rather than continents. The empire is gone. The factories are gone. For millions of Britons, the future arrives by post each month in the form of bills they can't pay. Somewhere along the Thames, 45 billionaires are deciding which yacht to summer on.